Over the last few years, Netflix has rapidly established itself as a premier destination for many hard-hitting adult animations. And yes, I am talking about more shows like Castlevania. Riding on the fame of the video game adapted into a dark medieval fantasy, Blood of Zeus was a standout hit when it debuted back in 2020. I don't think Powerhouse Animation ever fails to deliver, and if you don't believe me, you must watch their refreshing take on Greek mythology. It feels like they made the perfect dark fantasy by blending elements from God of War with the concept of Game of Thrones. Apart from that, one of the most rewarding dynamics of Blood of Zeus is the intense rivalry between the half-brothers Heron and Seraphim. Their dramatic showdown was at the core of the first season, and it ended with Heron killing Seraphim with the help of Zeus's lightning. However, this does not mean Seraphim is out of the picture for Season 2 because, as the show progresses, the relationship between Seraphim and Heron becomes even more complex, with their parallel journeys brilliantly juxtaposed against each other. As of now, Seraphim has successfully managed to unlock the true power of the Bident, which has allowed him to achieve a much more evil state, something you can compare to Heron's godlike powers that continue to blossom. While Seraphim was clearly the antagonist for the first season, he's evolved into a dark deuteragonist in the second and is comfortably fitting into the role. With the show blasting off the top rating charts at Netflix, we thought it was time to finally touch base and make a marvelous video on the anatomy of Seraphim. So, without wasting another moment, let's get right into it. But before we go into our explanation, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Who is Seraphim? Even if you haven't watched Blood of Zeus on Netflix, you must have already figured out that Seraphim is one of the major villains of the show. Seraphim is the son of King Periander and Queen Electra of Corinth. Before his birth, Electra had an affair with Zeus and was pregnant with twins, Seraphim and his half-brother Heron. Although Seraphim was Periander's son, Heron was actually the son of Zeus, and this news infuriated Hera, who was Zeus's wife. Of course, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, so Hera enlisted the Oneiroi to inform Periander of his wife's infidelity, and naturally, Periander absolutely lost it when he heard about his beloved wife warming someone else's bed. He vowed to kill any child that wasn't his, even if that meant killing the offspring of one of the most powerful gods. When Seraphim was born first, the king was momentarily relieved. However, Electra was still going through continued labor pains, which meant that something was off. Eventually, the king was informed that there were two placentas within Electra, which meant that there were two children with two different fathers. A few moments later, Heron was born, and Periander moved to kill the infant, but Zeus intervened just in time to stop him. In the chaos, Electra saw her chance and killed Periander to protect Heron. Zeus then took Electra and Heron to safety, leaving a newly born Seraphim behind. Now, Zeus thought Seraphim would be safe with his father's family, but unfortunately, he didn't take his uncle Acrisius' greed into consideration. Acrisius was a power-hungry man, and so when he saw the opportunity to seize the throne, Acrisius forced a servant named Ariana to keep the story around Seraphim's birth a secret. He then threw his newborn nephew off of a cliff so he could ascend to the throne unopposed, but miraculously, Seraphim survived the fall. Ariana rescued him and, with her sister's help, fled far away from Corinth to raise him in secret. Desperate for safety, Ariana eventually took refuge in a bear's cave and prayed for some form of divine intervention. Luckily for her, Zeus heard her prayers and was trying to make up for his mistake. In order to make amends, he compelled the mother bear to nurse Seraphim alongside her own cubs. Seraphim was raised by Ariana and grew up to believe that she was his real mother. They befriended the local bears, who became Seraphim's only playmates and companions. But their peaceful life was short-lived, as the sons of Acrisius eventually tracked Ariana down after torturing and killing her sister's family. Although Seraphim tried to protect Ariana with the help of the bears, he couldn't save her. He was then attacked by his cousins and received a horrible scar from one of them. Just as he was about to be killed, Zeus, disguised as a bear, came to his aid and rescued him. He then took shelter along the eastern shores of Melodone, where Seraphim became consumed by a desire for revenge, having recently lost his mother. Years later, Seraphim met a priestess named Gorgo and gradually fell in love with her. They planned to run away together, but on the day they were supposed to meet, Seraphim found the location of his adoptive mother's killer. Driven by vengeance, Seraphim chose to abandon Gorgo and avenge Ariana instead. He then tracked down and brutally murdered his adoptive mother's killer. Seraphim was then pursued by armed guards and fled to a beach where he stumbled upon the remains of a dead giant who washed up on the shore. He was absolutely clueless of the evil influence this dead giant had on him, so when he came into physical contact with it, he was poisoned, and almost immediately a mysterious voice urged him to consume the giant's flesh. After he feasted on it, Seraphim transformed into a monstrous creature and came to possess the bident of Hades, which was sheathed within the giant's flesh. Seraphim then went on to kill 12 men, and when the last 3 of them begged for their lives and swore their allegiance to him, he spared them and forced them to become demons like him. Since then, Seraphim has been relentlessly hunting for Acrisius and his sons. What is Seraphim's personality like? In his adult life, Seraphim became a man consumed by revenge, driven by the primary goal of pursuing Acrisius and his sons. His deep-seated hatred for Acrisius even fueled a general disdain for nobles, which is why he takes a grim satisfaction in watching their lives fade away in the most brutal manners. He also refused to tolerate any ounce of weakness within his followers, going as far as to even kill one of them to cull the weak. Plus, Seraphim firmly believed that hatred must be the most powerful emotion in an individual, a sentiment he says as much to his half-brother Heron. But even though he has been portrayed as a merciless prick, deep down, Seraphim is deeply family-oriented and really cares for Heron, which is probably why he even offered him a chance to side with him. After Seraphim killed Electra, he was seen regretting his actions, especially upon realizing that she was his mother. Despite his hatred and rage, Seraphim was still capable of compassion and love. We see this through his love for Gorgo, because after finding out about her death, along with her inability to pass on peacefully in the afterlife, Seraphim absolutely lost it. This pain motivated him to track Hades down and help him find a way for her soul to rest peacefully in the afterlife. And even after recognizing the error of his ways, Seraphim shows he is capable of forgiveness, particularly towards his brother Heron, which is something we've seen more than once. What does Seraphim look like? As a child, Seraphim had long dark brown hair which complemented his deep brown eyes and tan skin. While living in the forest with the bears, he wore a simple black cloth around his waist for pants and lacked proper clothing, a lot like Tarzan if you think about it, but at least unlike the latter, he had the memory of Ariana. After the brutal attack by Acrisius' sons, Seraphim bore a permanent scar over his left eye which turned his pupil white. His body also carried many prominent scars on his chest and both shoulders, but in his current demonic appearance, Seraphim's hair is tied back in white with a prominent golden streak flowing down and resting on his shoulder. Both eyes are striking with black sclera and red pupils. However, because of the scar on his left eye, the outer edge of the sclera has a golden band encircling it. Seraphim's skin has a soft gray hue with many bright red marks spreading around. As a demon, he also has spikes protruding out of his head, back, and arms. Aside from that, the Hades bident he carries is made of gold, with black and red shades spreading from the tip of the blade. Now, coming to his clothes, Demon Seraphim has a black cape that drapes off his left shoulder, along with more leather bands wrapping his shoulders and black ragged cloth covering his waist, which is again secured by leather bands that hold metal plates to his sides. We gotta say, this is probably some of the best bad boy attire for that era. What unique physical abilities or characteristics does Seraphim possess in Blood of Zeus? First, I think we should talk about what Seraphim was capable of doing as a human. Even if he was driven by hatred and vengeance, Seraphim was not weak, and given that he grew up in a forest alongside bears, he could jump very high or climb anything with ease. While he had invaded the castle to avenge his adoptive mother's murder, we witnessed just how fast this dude could run compared to the average human being. Seraphim did not have any help when he invaded his uncle's castle to kill Ariana's murderers, and that was a truly commendable feat. Now, coming to his demon physiology, we've already discussed how he became the first demon, but Seraphim's transformation also came with an impressive roster of abilities and physical enhancements. So let's go over the basics first. One of the first powers we saw Seraphim use as a demon was his control over weapons, especially his bident and sword. It doesn't matter how far away they are from him, once he lifts his hands and reaches out for them, the weapons come right to his hand, which really helps him in compromised situations where he's overpowered and needs something sharp at his aid. Then we have super strength. I don't think this comes to anyone as a surprise, but Seraphim's augmented strength certainly makes him a force to be reckoned with. Just after he turned into a demon, Seraphim effortlessly killed 12 human soldiers all by himself, even bashed his uncle's skull into a bloody pulp, and stood his ground against his demigod half-brother Heron countless times. Not only that, but Seraphim is also an expert combatant, and he can go on fighting for hours as he loves a good battle, but he also enjoys making his victims suffer. He is also a very clever and skilled fighter, especially with his bident, as we have seen him hold his own in battles against indomitable opponents like Alexia. Seraphim is also a good shot and is perfectly able to throw his bident accurately from a distance, and he rarely misses his target. Aside from that, he's also extremely durable. I mean, you could crush his body and somehow he'd survive that. Seraphim could even withstand a significant amount of physical stress and literally survived being thrown from a considerable distance by Hera's telekinetic powers. And lastly, Seraphim is pretty dang fast. I mean, sure, his superhuman speed might not match up with the Flash, but even then, he still makes heads turn with just how fast he can be. Seraphim's Demon Army! After Seraphim turned into a demon, others were simply drawn to him, so he went on to form a demon army, recruiting some willingly and others through force. These individuals abandoned their patronage to the gods, instead swearing allegiance to the giants. They too partook of the giants' flesh, succumbing to the same dark influence. From this unholy communion, the demons emerged as twisted creatures because their humanity was shrouded by a veil of darkness, even though they retained a semblance of their former selves. These wicked demons were mobilized by Seraphim and eventually formed an alliance with both the giants and Hera's faction of gods. Some of these demons could also shapeshift back to their human forms at will, which allowed them to be efficient in carrying out their master's dirty work. Seraphim bent legions of such demons at his own will, using them according to his need to further his agendas. How does Seraphim fly? Even though Seraphim is the first demon, his powers still have some limitations, and well, let's just say that flying is among them. But that doesn't mean he can't fly. Seraphim has a pet that he loves to ride around on, and not just that, this pet also helps him boost his efficiency during battle. Fans of Blood of Zeus have actually been discussing Seraphim's strange, magnificent pet in Season 1 for a very long time now. Everyone was so confused. Was it more like a chimera, or was it a manticore? So, in Greek stories, a chimera is a scary monster that breathes fire, and it's a mix of lion, goat, and dragon body parts. A manticore, conversely, has a human-like head with horns, a lion's body, and a tail that looks like a mix between a dragon and a scorpion. Although both creatures have appeared in the show, the creators haven't officially confirmed which one Seraphim's pet really is. There's another difference to consider too. Chimeras are from Greek mythology, while manticores have appeared in Greek, Persian, and Indian legends. Plus, the word manticore means man-eater in ancient Persian terms, which is exactly what Heron faced when he knocked Seraphim out. Manticores can also fly, have a strong bite, and are agile in battle while being able to dodge attacks and grasp victims with very sharp claws. So what do you think Seraphim's flying companion is? Are there any limitations to Seraphim's physiology in Blood of Zeus? Seraphim may have demonic powers, but he's still very much mortal and can be killed just like any regular person, whether through loss of blood, beheading, or old age. Despite his toughness and ability to heal, a swift beheading can also take Seraphim down. He's also sensitive to intense heat and electricity, as seen when his brother Heron used lightning to end his life. It really doesn't matter if he is the first demon, Seraphim still has weaknesses, and if you hit him where it hurts, he will most certainly become weak. Even after all of this, Blood of Zeus doesn't provide a clear answer regarding Seraphim's mortality, because even though Heron kills him in Season 1, he is resurrected in Season 2. What divine equipment does Seraphim use? So, Seraphim comes across his iconic bident while searching through the giant's remains, only later realizing that it belonged originally to Hades. After consuming the giant's flesh, he gained the ability to control the bident using his mind, manipulating it through the tainted blood left in its grooves. However, upon Seraphim's death, Hades reclaimed his bident. Plus, Seraphim also briefly wielded Zeus's adamantium sword, which was actually crafted for Heron. After Heron discarded it as a result of his frustrations with his father, Seraphim took the sword for himself when it was sent by Hera. Why do we think Seraphim is the most interesting character in the entire show? No matter how he's betrayed, we can't help but think that Seraphim deserves a redemption arc and a big old hug. For us, Seraphim really stood out as the character who changed the most over time, to the point that his plot development was the only reason Blood of Zeus had my attention. Seraphim seemed to have a clear understanding of the world's problems, as opposed to the main character who completely failed to challenge those ideas. Heron felt more like a typical hero who fought against bad things because they were obviously bad, without digging much deeper into the underlying issues or questioning the system itself. In a way, Heron was the basic outcome of nepotism, who saw the world as simple black and white while not even trying to look out for the grays. Seraphim's journey began with a deep desire to topple the corrupt nobles who had caused him so much pain. It was his personal tragedies, like surviving attempted murder and losing his loved ones, that fueled his passion. Plus, these injustices extend beyond his story, even seen through Heron's struggles, where he was mistreated like a pariah by the same nobles and poorly compensated for his work due to those in power abusing their authority. Throughout these trials, Seraphim's perspective remains unchallenged, as he seems unquestionably right in his assessment of the world's flaws. However, it's his encounter with a god that opens his eyes to the bigger picture, making him realize that his initial goal of toppling nobles was just scratching the surface of a much larger problem. Whatever it is, I feel like there is this overdone idea in the media that the bad guy always has some I did nothing wrong angle, but with Seraphim, that's not the case at all, because he was always a pretty terrible person, a jerk, and a mass murderer. The real issue actually lies in how the protagonist, Heron, fails to challenge Seraphim's twisted perspective effectively. So it's really not about Seraphim being a great character, but more about Heron being a weak protagonist who can't really hold his own against a strong antagonist. This weakness isn't just Heron's problem, it affects all of the characters, but it's especially glaring because Heron should be the one providing a contrast and strength to the story. In the end, it doesn't really matter how much backstory a random god gets if the main character isn't strong enough to stand out. Nevertheless, Seraphim holds most of the spotlight, and for good reason. But that's just our 2 cents on this character. What did you guys think of the rivalry between Seraphim and Heron? Let us know in the comments section down below, and if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.